Alrighty, guys, it's time to talk about my Freezing Pulse Elementalist. This is roughly the same how I leveled it in the past. I changed a couple of things up to make it a bit more smooth, hopefully. So, if you just want to grab yourself the Path of Building, link is in the description down below. Grab it, have fun. Thank you for stopping by. If you want some more information, let's talk about it now. So, in here you do have 4 little milestones, right? The first one is how I leveled up to the first lab. We actually want to grab Elemental Overload early on because we don't have critical damage or crit multiplier, sorry, in the beginning of the game. It's very hard to come by early on. You won't have the crit chance that is needed to profit from this, but getting to like 25 to 30% crit chance is actually quite easy, right? So you will have this up, maybe not in Act 1 consistently, but like throughout Acts 2 and 3, this will up consistently, and this is just 40% more damage for you, right? We want to make sure to grab Golem Commander pretty much at the same time where we hit our first lab to gain access to 4 golems, and that is why I play Elementalist pretty much, right? It's just that will be amazing, right? Now, for our second lab, we are going to grab Shaper of Storms, right? This will just enable us to shock with our Freezing Pulse and get bonus damage that way. We add in some cold damage, cold penetration, and a +1 to all cold skill gems, which is very nice. And we are grabbing some reservation efficiency that we absolutely will need. Our third lab, we will just round out with Mastermind of Discord to get better exposure, right? And then also we are grabbing the Elemental Mastery to make our exposures minimum a little bit better to smoothen this out, right? We grab some spell block nodes as well, and this will give us a decent amount of mana regen early on, right? Before we hit maps, before we do anything. And this is about the time where you need to double check, hey, I have some gear now. Is it better now to unclick LE Overload, or is it better to stay on it, right? So what you do, import your character into Path of Building and just untick this. And yeah, we would be way better off right now, right? But that's because I have better gear than I would have at this point in the Path of Building. But that's how you check, right? And then once you have done that, you can go towards level 90. Now, there is a point to just actually do this for the pathing, right? There we go. Smooths out your crit a little bit as well, and you are just grabbing some maximum power charges over here and down here, and then a minimum power charge, and the chance to gain a power charge on kill, as well as some increased damage per power charge, which is very, very useful, right? How are we going to generate power charges then, right? We have our Frost Bomb set up with Spell Cascade, so that way you cast 3 Frost Bombs, right? And you just cover more ground, and we link it to power charge on crit. There we go. That is one of the ways. The other is on kill, right? And well, Cold Snap can generate us a couple of frenzy charges, so that's why that's in here as well. Very, very useful, right? Our golems, our Ice Golem will give us some crit, Lightning Golem gives us mana regen and cast speed, the Stone Golem increased defenses and life regen, and the Flame Golem is here for damage. Pretty neat. For us, this is what I have changed up a little bit. Clarity on level 3 is usually what I would run. Herald of Ice, nothing unusual. Zealotry, pretty usual for me as well. As soon as you get this, you will absolutely see an uptick in uptime of Elemental Overload, right? You get more spell damage and some increased spell crit. For now, we're running Tempest Shield. This is actually quite important for us. As you can see, this gives us like 25% spell block. But even if you run this as soon as you can, your mana regen should be smooth at that point, right? So Later on, we will switch this out for probably Determination, but that's just how it goes. Curse of Choice at the moment is Frostbite. It is the most damage. We will just cast that. Movement skills, Flame Dash, Shield Charge, linked to faster attacks. In the beginning, like have an Arcane Surge on level 1 linked to Flame Dash, and as soon as Flame Dash hits level 7, every time you cast Flame Dash, you will proc Arcane Surge. That will give you better mana regen and a little bit more spell damage as well, right? It depends on on how many sockets you have, right? Automation with Immortal Call, we will switch this out later on for Molten Shell probably, but in the beginning, really helpful. The damage is calculated without power charges, with 2 intensity stacks, and we do have that 15% more damage in here. Now, this only comes into play once you do have your 4th flap, right, which is Heart of Destruction. You can see here, gain convergence when you hit a unique enemy, no more than once every 8 seconds. Convergence lasts for 4 seconds, right? And in the 4 seconds where this isn't active, you just gain an increase to your area of effect. So, what you can do, right, is let's say we hit a boss, right? So you would have convergence up for 4 seconds, and the next 4 seconds it's not. So half of the time, 30% more damage equals out to 15% more damage over those 8 seconds, right? And we just cannot take it in here now. But that's how that's done, right? And we would assume in a boss fight, hey, we are going to have our power charges up, right? Probably also our Diamond Flask is up, which almost gets us to crit cap already, right? But with the power charges, you can also see that our mana regen goes up a little bit. And if we are lucky and we have Val Cold Snap ready, we would also gain a couple of frenzy charges, right? We might later on be able to unnerf on hit, and we are able to not only have 3 intensity, but 4 now, right? So 2.3 mil boss DPS in the beginning for a league start, I think that's okay. For the first 2 Void Stones, I would assume, right? And then we need to think about also hitting a higher level and rearranging for endgame. But for league start, I am just pretty much calculating normally with well, the power charges are actually okay, right? So like 1.4 mil is quite decent, right? And I think a-okay. So, useful uniques for you if you're leveling this and you're thinking about, hey, can I use a Ghost Drive? Yes, absolutely, right? It's also something, now that we don't have to get a spell crit chest anymore, which we still can, right? But we don't really need it. We could just get a Ghost Drive and get a decent amount of ES. And that's pretty cool, right? So, yeah. Ghost Drive could be something. If you drop it, then the Karui Ward is actually also a very decent amulet to level. You get dex, you get strength, you get movement speed, and you get projectile damage as well as projectile speed. All of these stats, besides accuracy, are very good for us. So if you drop this early on, or you can buy it for like an alch or something, that is definitely something you can go for, right? The replica one, I don't really think is worth it, but the regular Karui Ward, pretty good. There we go. And then probably the one thing I was thinking about as well is the Axiom, right? Because this gives you flat damage for all 3 elementals. You get cast speed and you get some spell crit. That can be very good before you do get a decent wand, right? It will just make it a little bit easier, and these are usually not that expensive on League Start, right? Yes, obviously a better wand will do you very nicely, but getting an Axiom is very cool. What I haven't checked yet is like the Singularity. This is cast speed, reduced mana cost. You have flat lightning damage, and then you hinder not the best, right? So I probably would say Axiom is the way to go if you just want something very easy to go about, right? Then you could go into Dodris Damning, right? You get some all res, get some mana on kill, but you can also apply an additional curse. And if you want to do that, you can absolutely go for an Arcanist brand setup with some other curses. You could go for Assassin's Mark, Sniper's Mark, Elemental Weakness, or you could go for Enfeeble, Temp Chains, probably a defensive curse if you want to. But those are probably the ones that are cheapest, except for the Ghost Drive, of course. But like, yeah, just getting an Axiom is actually very, very cool. And another chess piece that I wanted to mention is actually 1000 Ribbons, right? This is flat damage to all of your spells and attacks on all elementals. You get actually level 5 Ellie Prolif on there, and you get triple res on there as well. It's evasion ES instead of armor ES, right? But early on, as a 4-link, this can actually carry you through the campaign quite nicely, right? There we go. There's a couple of those things, right? One more thing I would like to mention, a very cheap anoint in the beginning of the game, when you just reach maps, for example, is Prodigal Perfection. This is 1 clear and 2 azure oils. You should be able to get those for very cheap or even pick them up yourselves if you do a couple of the whatchamacallit, of the blight encounters, right? That is decent. You gain some mana and some spell damage per 100 max mana, up to 40%, which means if you do have 1000 mana, you get 20% increased spell damage, right? And since it is just such a cheap anoint, and you have like a Karui ward, for example, just throw that one on, right? And you're fine. And then later on, we are going to grab Ash, Frost, and Storm, which is the Sepia, and 2 Crimson Oils. And that gives us some Ellie damage, and more importantly, an increased effect of non-damaging ailments, which means better shocks, right? And that's also where we will later on go into a Militant Faith to grab ourselves even more shock or ailment efficient. Dang it, I can't talk. There we go. Increased effect of non-damaging ailments from a Militant Faith will push us up to that 50% shock mark, and maybe we could squeeze out a 65 shock value at some point with some more investment and different gear, right? But this is roughly around level 90. If you are really struggling with mana regen, you can also get yourself Mind Over Matter and Eldritch Battery. Probably also want a little bit of Leech then, right? And this will make it so your ES goes over your mana instead of your life, but you will take 40% of damage from mana, and with this setup, not from the mana, but from the ES, right? Because you do have Mind Over Matter. So that can be a way to go. I felt like it was nice with the mana like this, and it should be okay if we deactivate the power charges really quickly, because that gives us a little bit more mana regen. You can see we have like 30 regen spare. That should be enough to cast our curse and our frost bomb, right? So yeah, that's pretty much all that there's to it, right? Get armor ES bases, and then with the Eldritch currency, you can really experiment. I like to get cast speed. I like to get fist damage taken as cold, for example, especially if I do go the Aegis Aurora route later on. Having more cold res equals out to take less damage from physical hits. You can get increased effect of golem buffs on your chess piece. On your gloves, this is non-negotiable. You want unnerf on hit. And later on, you can get exposure on hit and ditch frost bomb if you want. Or you can get life leech on hit. That can also be very good. On the boots, I like to get action speed and then increased armor from helmet and gloves, for example. That's pretty much all that there's to it. Jewels, I just have life and crit multi-jewels. You can also get a triple stat jewel, which would mean like you get crit chance as well, and maybe you get a corrupted one with corrupted blood immunity, right? Flasks. We want a quicksilver, right? We want a diamond flask, especially in the beginning. That will help us out a lot. And then a granite for some flat armor is also very helpful. If you need an enduring mana flask with you, take it with you. There is absolutely no shame in doing so. And then just an instant life flask with some bleed removal. Cool. That's about all I do have to say about the builds. I will keep you updated, as I said, or if not, then I say it now. I will keep you updated over the weekend how it went for me. And hopefully, at the start of next week, I will be able to put together a decent end game variant. It depends on how much currency I get, right? But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, guys. See you on League Start, and as always, take care. Bye.